In the heavy summer of 1997, Teresa and Daniel Langdon vanished without a trace from a beachside rental in North Carolina's Outer Banks. Their suitcases remained unpacked in the bedroom, their rental car still parked in the driveway. The air conditioning hummed steadily, the shower ran endlessly, cascading over cold porcelain, but the couple was nowhere to be found. For nearly 3 decades, the mystery haunted the quiet coastal town of Kill Devil Hills. The local sheriff's department filed reports, the newspapers printed headlines, but there were no clues, just a rental frozen in time, like a story paused mid-sentence. On July 21, 1997, the last person to see them alive was a teenage girl cleaning houses for Cape Shore Property Company. 17, sunburned and saving for community college, she recalled the suffocating humidity, the kind that feels like nature holding its breath before a storm. House 114 on Driftwood Lane had been a last-minute booking, a cash transaction, 2 guests, a couple. She knocked at 10:01 a.m., waited the requisite 5 minutes, then stepped inside. What she found wasn't disturbing, just deeply unsettling. A paperback lay open on the coffee table, its pages curled with sea air. The master bed had one side turned down. The guest room was untouched. A wine glass sat upright on the floor beside the couch. There were 2 toothbrushes, a half-empty bottle of sunblock, damp towels drying on the porch railing, but no people. No signs of violence or departure. Just an eerie stillness, like time itself had taken a breath and never exhaled. She finished cleaning, clocked out, and didn't think of it again. Not until the news hit: vacationing couple missing, no signs of foul play. There were no fingerprints out of place, no forced entry, no blood. Just one strange detail: the bathroom mirror was missing, unscrewed cleanly from the wall, its absence more haunting than its presence ever was. Theories spiraled. A botched robbery, a runaway fantasy, something darker. But the facts refused to align. Their jewelry, cash, and credit cards were untouched. The keys still sat in the dish by the front door. No witnesses, no security footage. No one had seen them leave. By the following summer, the house was back on the rental market. A new coat of paint, repairs where needed, a slightly lower price tag, and a marketing line promising ocean breezes and endless sunsets. Most guests came and went without incident, but some, a whisper here, a shadow there, left early, uneasy. In 2003, a woman reported hearing voices in the ductwork. In 2011, a couple filed a complaint about scraping sounds beneath the tub. A boy once refused to sleep in the master suite, telling his parents that someone was watching him from the bathroom mirror. Fast forward to March 2024. Julia Carmichael, a 34-year-old furniture restorer, grieving the loss of her mother, bought the property at a bankruptcy auction. It was supposed to be a new beginning, fresh drywall, ocean air, healing, no dark history the agent had promised. But history, it turned out, wasn't ready to stay buried. On May 2nd, while scrubbing mildew from the shower, Julia noticed something strange. One tile gave slightly under her hand. The wall was cold, but not solid, a soft resistance. Her gut twisted. Instinct whispered that something was wrong. Outside, the spring surf roared softly beyond the dunes. The bathroom window stood open, ushering in the briny scent of salt and decay. Julia stared at the tile behind the built-in shelf. It was cracked like the others, a remnant of the 1990s decor, but this one didn't feel right. "You're not normal," she muttered, pressing again. From the hallway, her partner Peter appeared. "Did the plumber ever show?" "No," she said. "Also, I think we have a fake wall." Peter stepped into the room, still dusty from attic work, and tapped the tile. Hollow. Unequivocally. "Either this house is trying to send us a message," he said, "or somebody did a terrible job patching." She handed him a screwdriver. It took 30 minutes to pry through layers of tile, drywall, and damp plywood. The space they uncovered was narrow and tall, boxed in with wooden joists and decades of silence. Julia aimed her phone's flashlight into the darkness. At first only dust and decay, then fabric. She reached in. What came out was a button-up shirt, faded blue, brittle with age. Threads along the seam were torn, clawed, as if someone had tried desperately to escape. She shone the light lower. Scratches, deep, curved, fingernail marks. Peter leaned over. "Is that blood?" She didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on something glinting in the corner. She reached again, hand trembling. It was a silver charm bracelet. Delicate, a starfish, a flip-flop, a heart, 3 letters engraved, TL. The warmth of it in her palm felt like a heartbeat. "Peter," she whispered. This wasn't storage, and for the first time in nearly 3 decades, the silence in House 114 began to unravel its secrets. A truth had waited patiently behind that wall, a truth that would soon turn everything they thought they knew upside down. He stared at the tile fragments on the floor, then back to the exposed cavity in the wall. A weight settled in his chest. "Oh my God," Peter whispered, barely audible. "Someone was in there." 2 hours later, flashing blue lights framed the house like a crime scene pulled from a nightmare. Detective Ruben Rivera stood in the master bathroom, hands resting on his hips, eyes scanning the cramped crawl space. 2 forensic officers wrapped in Tyvek suits documented every inch of the interior. Rivera was a tall, broad man with heavy-lidded, intelligent eyes. His hair was salt and pepper pulled back into a stubby ponytail that gave him a no-nonsense presence. When he spoke, it was with the calm gravity of a man who'd seen too much to be shocked anymore. "Langdon case," he murmured, almost to himself. Julia, still dressed in paint-stained jeans and a worn hoodie, stood outside the bathroom doorway, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "What case?" Rivera turned, his tone steady. "Teresa and Daniel Langdon, tourists from Richmond. They vanished from this house in July 1997. Didn't check out. Car still in the driveway, clothes in the closet, shower running, no sign of them." Julia's mouth was dry. "What happened to them?" Rivera gave a small shrug. "That's the mystery. No struggle, no forced entry, just gone." She felt a sudden chill, as if the air itself had pulled away. "And you think that crawl space?" He stepped into the hallway and pulled a small evidence bag from his coat. Inside it glimmered the charm bracelet. Her initials were Teresa Langdon. She was wearing this the night they disappeared. It was listed in the original report. Peter appeared beside her, face pale, breath shallow. "So what now?" Rivera glanced between the bracelet, Julia, and the open void in the wall. His expression turned grim. "Now, we dig." If the rest of the space had remained untouched, and if the blood truly belonged to one of the Langdons, then what they'd uncovered was no longer just history. It was a live crime scene. He turned to his team. "Scan the adjacent walls. Use thermal. Look for voids. If there's one crawl space, there might be more." By sunset, the house was sealed off with yellow tape. Julia and Peter stood together on the edge of the dunes. The breeze whispered through the seagrass, carrying the metallic scent of old blood and the salt of the Atlantic. Julia looked back at her home, a place that now bore scars she could no longer ignore. "You okay?" Peter asked, gently resting an arm across her shoulders. She nodded, but her voice was quiet. That tile was hiding a secret for almost 30 years. Peter followed her gaze back to the bathroom window. "What kind of secret?" She didn't answer right away. Images flooded her mind. The torn shirt, the clawed wood, the bracelet warm in her hand. Someone had been trapped. And someone had made sure they couldn't get out. May 3rd, 2024, Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. The next morning, the house no longer belonged to them. Not truly. Julia stood behind the police barricade, her coffee untouched, now cold. A white van from the forensics unit backed into the driveway. Another van had arrived earlier, its equipment cases sprawled across the lawn. Scanners, tripods, and cables threaded through the sand, transforming her fixer-upper into a scene that looked more like a true crime documentary than a beach home. Old Case Unit, Currituck County, was stenciled across the lead vehicle. Rivera stepped out, no badge, no uniform, just a windbreaker and the weight of 30 years carried in his quiet, composed demeanor. He approached with a nod. "You sure you don't want to wait somewhere else? It'll be all day." Julia shook her head. "I want to know what you find." He sipped from a battered thermos. "You from around here?" "Chapel Hill," she said. "We bought the house as a flip. Airbnb by summer. Thought it would be fun." Rivera gave a slow nod, looking toward the house. Hell of a welcome. Inside, the crawl space was deeper than expected. Once Rivera's team removed the inner panel and insulation, it revealed a low, narrow cavity stretching the length of the bathroom wall. What they found inside made the earlier discoveries seem tame. 2 long brown hairs caught in a cobweb, a cracked pink plastic comb, a single white flip-flop with faded seashells, and deep gouges in the wood that could only be made by fingernails. One officer knocked on the wall. "Hollow. Sounds like another void." "Scan it," Rivera ordered. The ground-penetrating radar unit rolled into place. The tech, focused and silent, scanned the wall. After 2 passes, she turned the tablet toward Rivera. "There's another chamber. Smaller. Vertical. 5 feet tall, maybe 1.5 feet wide. Could be structural." She hesitated. "Unlikely. Density's different. Metallic elements, too. Not uniform. Possibly wiring, possibly not." Rivera knelt beside the wall, studying the tile. "This was meant to stay hidden. Get me a drill and microcam." Julia watched from the living room, arms crossed as the fiber-optic camera snaked into the wall. On the monitor, an eerie green glow illuminated the narrow chamber. A full-length mirror reflected the soft halo of the LED light. Then, pink wallpaper, peeling at the seams, a plastic vanity, a small mattress on the floor. Stuffed animals lined up along the baseboard. Julia blinked. That wasn't in the blueprints. Rivera didn't respond at first. He just stared. Then he said quietly, "We're removing this wall, piece by piece. Everything's evidence now." He turned to her, his tone firm but kind. "Miss Carmichael, I'm going to need you and your husband to vacate the property. We'll arrange housing. You'll be reimbursed." Julia swallowed. That was a child's room. Rivera nodded, slowly. "Yes, and this is still the Langdon case. They were the ones who disappeared. But what we found might be something even bigger." At the precinct, Rivera laid the Langdon file on a cold metal table. It was far thinner than it should have been. 2 people, gone. No bodies, no blood, no firm evidence. Just anomalies. Their luggage untouched, the shower running for hours, a faint smell of bleach near the drain. He flipped to the original witness interview. Delilah Boone, the housekeeper. She had mentioned a sound. Singing from inside the walls. It had been dismissed as a stress response. He underlined the note and scribbled beside it, "Re-interview Boone." The last page was a journal entry from August 16, 1997. A simple sentence. "Storms rolling in, might stay a few more days." Danny said, "This place feels too quiet." That night, in a rented motel room just blocks away, Julia sat beside Peter, scrolling through the old missing person bulletin. She stared at the picture of Daniel and Teresa Langdon. young, laughing, her wrist adorned with the charm bracelet. Peter leaned over. That's the one, isn't it? He nodded. He hesitated. Do you think she died in there? In the wall? Julia didn't respond. Not at first. But then, quietly, as the silence stretched between them, she whispered, I don't think she was alone. And with that, a new shadow was cast over the mystery of Driftwood Lane. Because this wasn't just about a couple lost to time. It was about what else had been buried with them. That evening, Julia and Peter sat in silence inside a dim motel room just 3 blocks from their house, now a sealed crime scene. The room smelled faintly of chlorine and old curtains. Julia stared at her phone, scrolling slowly through the 1997 Missing Persons Bulletin. The screen displayed a photo of Daniel and Teresa Langdon. They looked like any other vacationing couple. Daniel wore a crooked smile, and Teresa clutched an ice cream cone, laughing into the sun. The kind of couple who left behind scrapbooks, not mysteries. She zoomed in. On Teresa's wrist, the charm bracelet was unmistakable. A tiny starfish, a flip-flop, a heart with initials, TL. Peter looked over her shoulder. That's the one. Julia nodded. After a long pause, Peter finally asked the question they'd both been avoiding. Do you think she died in there? In the wall? Julia didn't answer directly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I don't think she was alone. May 4th, 2024, Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. Delilah Boone hadn't cleaned a house in over 15 years, but the Langdon rental never left her memory. Detective Rivera found her at an assisted living facility in Kitty Hawk, apartment 2B. Corner unit, windows overlooking the marsh. A cane rested by her recliner, crossword puzzles and Reader's Digest stacked on her coffee table. She looked thinner, age hollowing her body, but her eyes were sharp. You're here about the shower house, she said, before Rivera even sat. He blinked. Excuse me? That's what we called it. The shower wouldn't stop running that day. I found the couple's things, water still going, like it was left for someone else. Rivera flipped open his notebook. You discovered the scene, correct? August 18th, 1997, Monday. I always cleaned on Mondays, post-weekend turnover. She leaned forward. When I walked in, something was wrong. Delilah had been a cleaner for Kill Devil Hills Property Company for 12 years. She was proud of her eye for detail. Sand on rugs, stale coffee filters, double-knotted trash bags. The Langdons hadn't returned their key. The office thought they just forgot, but when she parked, their Ford Taurus was still there, Virginia plates. She assumed they'd overslept. She used her master key, and the second I stepped inside, she said, her voice dimming, I knew they were gone. What made you so sure? Rivera asked. She looked out the window. Too quiet. He waited. The A/C was off. Clock radio wasn't playing. But the shower? It was running. Not like someone was in it. Just on. For hours. The bathroom reeked of bleach and steam, like someone tried to clean something. Kell-H. Did you see blood? She shook her head. No blood. No broken glass. Nothing obvious. But the shampoo bottles had fallen. One towel was twisted, like it had been wrung out in panic. And the mirror. She rubbed her hands together slowly. Smudges wouldn't go away, like someone had pressed their face against it. Rivera took notes, pausing when she added, I heard music. He looked up. From the bathroom, faint, like a child's lullaby, playing from behind the wall. At the time, Delilah had reported everything, but Deputy Lane, now long retired, dismissed her concerns. Young couple probably ran off, he told her. That wasn't right, Delilah said. You don't leave your wallet, your luggage, your life, unless something's very wrong. Anything odd about the house layout? She hesitated. Yeah, that bathroom wall. It felt wrong, hollow. I bumped it and it sounded empty. You told the deputy that. I did. He said it was bad insulation. That afternoon, Rivera stood in the gutted bathroom. The walls were bare, a lattice of pipes and studs. Forensics had pulled the tile, exposing layers of secrets. The hidden chamber, the mirror, the child-sized mattress, all catalogued. An FBI behavioral team now combed the site. One profiler murmured, "This wasn't amateur work. Whoever built this new structure had money and time." Rivera knelt near the crawlspace. The gouges in the floor were deep, fingernails, broken nails embedded in the wood. She was trying to get out, he whispered. Beck approached. DNA match on the bracelet. Teresa Langdon. Mitochondrial. No secondary DNA yet, still no trace of Daniel. That evening, under police escort, Julia returned to retrieve personal items. Her laptop, her grandmother's ring, a tote of paperwork. Rivera walked beside her. The house was different now, exposed, hollow. Find anything else? She asked, pausing outside the bathroom. 2 toothbrushes, one female, blood under the bristles, could be gums or something else. Julia nodded, her voice distant. You ever feel like a house is trying to speak to you? Rivera let the faintest smile form. I think this one's been screaming for decades. Later that night, Rivera sat in a county archive room, bathed in fluorescent light. He held a scanned rental contract. Longdon's, 7 nights, August 10th, 1997. But at the bottom, a penciled note. Extended 3 days, paid cash, confirmed by PM call. No initials. The phone number led to a payphone at a roadside motel long since demolished. Someone extended their stay after they vanished. May 5th, 2024, Currituck County Sheriff's Office. Rivera hadn't slept. He stared at the scan of the rental agreement again. The pencil note gnawed at him. He called the archives, anyone who worked the Blue Bucket in the 90s. An hour later, Beatrice Morton, cleaning staff, lives in Manteo. Rivera knocked on her door. Oh yes, I remember him, she said. Tall man, windbreaker, always used the payphone, said his name was Mr. Candle. Rivera raised an eyebrow. You think that was his real name? No, she said. He once had a girl with him, quiet, 6 or 7, carried a doll with no face. She retrieved an old guest log. August 17th, 1997, room 9, paid in cash. Name, Gerald Stone. That's the day the Langdons were supposed to check out, Rivera said. Beatrice looked up. You think he hurt them? Rivera didn't answer. Back at the station, Julia sat across from Rivera. There's something I didn't mention, she said. She handed over a trifold brochure from 1997. A Dolphin Tour ad, inside in shaky handwriting. Bastion. Says I can't leave yet, he's watching me from behind the mirror. Rivera's pulse jumped. Where did you find this? Kitchen, behind the pantry. More writing, on the next fold. I heard someone breathing inside the wall last night. The handwriting matched Teresa Langdon's DMV signature. She wrote this during her last days, Rivera said. Which means she might have still been alive after the date they were declared missing. Julia whispered. Then, why didn't she escape? Rivera slid over a photo, a door frame hidden behind insulation, iron bolts, shackles. Because someone never planned to let her out. The full-scale investigation launched quickly. The old property manager, Gregory Kell, handled the Langdon booking in 1997. then vanished. No tax records after 2001. No address. An archived personnel photo matched the motel log's signature. Gerald Stone. Gregory Kell was Mr. Candle. On the fifth day, a third chamber was breached behind the guest bathroom. Inside, a rusted camcorder, a stool, a box of unlabeled VHS tapes, and a photo. Rivera held it up. Teresa Langdon, wrists bound, sitting on the child's mattress, her eyes wide. In the mirror, a man with a camera, windbreaker, familiar face. Gregory Kell. That night, Julia stood alone on the back deck, watching waves devour the horizon. The house glowed behind her, stripped to its bones. A once promising haven, now a hollowed shell of secrets. She closed her eyes and pictured Teresa and Daniel, two people who came for rest, and instead found something already living inside the walls. May 6, 2024, Currituck County Crime Lab. The journal was warped, its corners curled from time and moisture, but it had survived, found sealed in a Ziploc beneath attic insulation. Rivera read the first page. Teresa Lynn Langdon, August 1997. Kill Devil Hills Rental. Our honeymoon, kind of. The entries started simple. August 11th. Danny made coffee before sunrise. We laughed at ghost crabs on the beach. Maybe we needed this. August 13th. Storm coming, beautiful, but this place is too quiet. Danny says the AC hum keeps him up. Tried unplugging it, can't. Bathroom light flickers, shadows behind the glass. August 14th. Something's wrong. Woke up to music. A lullaby. Mirror was fogged except for one handprint. Too small, smaller than mine. Danny says I was dreaming. I wasn't. August 15th. Danny's distant. I caught him in the bathroom whispering to the mirror. Said he was listening. He won't eat. Doesn't sleep. Rivera flipped a page and felt a chill settle in his bones. The handwriting grew erratic. The house hadn't just hidden them. It had watched. And someone, long before Julia ever arrived, had taught it how. Julia tried to take a walk the next morning, hoping a little air might clear her mind. But when she reached the front door, she found the deadbolt relocked from the outside. She hadn't touched it, neither had Peter, or so he swore. But someone had. August 16, 1997. Teresa's journal took a dark turn. He's gone. I woke up and the bed was empty. His things are here, his shoes, his wallet, but no Danny. I've searched the whole house. I thought I heard him in the shower, but the water was cold. No one was there, only the mirror. I think something's inside it. Rivera pushed the weathered journal across the table toward Julia, who sat beside the lab's evidence coordinator. She hesitated, then picked it up, her fingers trembling. This was hers? She asked softly. Confirmed, Rivera said. Handwriting analysis plus skin oil residue on the pages. It's authentic. As Julia read, her expression changed. With each page, her heart seemed to sink further. These aren't just ramblings. She was being watched. Rivera reached into the folder and pulled a photo of the mirror recovered from the crawl space. It had been removed for testing. Two-ways glass, he explained. Like in interrogation rooms, installed from inside the wall. Whoever built that chamber could see her whenever they wanted. Julia's stomach turned. She thought it was Danny, watching her. We don't think it was. Not then, maybe not ever. In a second envelope, 3 Polaroids had been recovered from beneath the attic panel. One showed the mattress. Another showed a tray of food, peanut butter and jelly, apple slices, a bottle of water. The third? Teresa, asleep under a thin pink blanket. Her head turned from the camera. Along the edge, in permanent marker. Still beautiful. Still mine. Rivera met with FBI profiler Dr. Lorna Heck at the scene. "This is organized behavior," she said, flipping through the photos. "Whoever did this had precision, a background in facilities or carpentry. This wasn't about brutality, it was about domination." Environmental control. "Do you think Teresa was kept alive?" Dr. Heck nodded. "For a while. Her notes suggest prolonged captivity, but more than that, confusion. That's a tool, detective. Confusion breaks people." "And Daniel? She never writes about seeing him again. Possibilities? He left, he was killed, or—" "This changed," Rivera finished. "Coerced. Turned." He looked toward the gutted wall. "She might have been trapped. Inches from rescue, and no one knew." That night, Julia scoured the web. Old news clippings, archive articles, missing persons bulletins. The Langdons, it turned out, had simply vanished from public interest, until she found a quote buried in a 1999 editorial. Local contractor Gregory Kell, then recently laid off, had once said, "People come here to disappear. Some just do it better than others." Julia stared at the screen. He wasn't hiding the truth, he was proud of it. May 7th, 2024, 2:11 a.m. A sound woke Julia. A metallic click, then a low wheeze like air being squeezed through something narrow. She sat upright. Peter stirred beside her. "What is it?" She didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the motel bathroom vent. It rattled, then stopped. She rose, walked barefoot across the carpet, and climbed onto the tub ledge. The vent wasn't secured. Using a butter knife, she unscrewed it. Inside, tucked beyond the lip of the ductwork, was a microcassette recorder, covered in dust, but intact. The next morning she brought it to Rivera. He examined it carefully, inserted new batteries, and pressed play. A hiss. Then footsteps. Then a child's voice. "I'm still in here." Julia's blood froze. Then a man's voice, strained, familiar. "Teresa, please stop screaming, they'll hear us." Rivera met her eyes. "That's Daniel Langdon." The voice continued. "Just stay in the princess room. Do what he says." "The princess room. She mentioned that," Julia whispered. Rivera nodded. "We found more." He slid over a transcript. 35 minutes of terror. Minute 19, the mood shifted. "He comes at night now. I hear the screws turning. He watches us through the vent. Teresa won't eat. She won't speak. I think she's gone in her mind. He says we're special, the first, but not the last." They later examined the duct network. It connected to several crawl spaces, many modified. In one, 2 more tapes were found, one blank, the other, "You belong to the house now. The outside isn't real." The voice was calm, kind, designed to soothe, like a captor pretending to be a caregiver. In the forensics lab, an analog breakthrough. A 1997 permit filed under Cape Shore Property Company. Project, bathroom ventilation expansion, Unit 7. Handwritten notes. Install vent observation grid. Dual-purpose airflow plus viewing access. Mirror placement optional. Soundproofing foam. Install playback shelf. Julia leaned in. It wasn't just a trap. It was a stage. Later that day, Julia returned to the house. Supervised. The rooms were skeletal, the structure raw, but the intimacy of the space remained. She stepped into the master bath. The mirror had been removed, the vent grate gone, but in the corner of the mirror frame something had been scratched into the glass. "Still here?" Julia turned away, breath caught in her chest, because from inside the vent shaft she heard breathing. May 8th, 2024, Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. They found it behind the pantry. A passageway disguised beneath floral-painted drywall, just wide enough for a man to squeeze through sideways. At the end, a false wall, a sliding panel. It led directly to the crawl space. Inside, a tray, thermoses, meal packages, all decades old, but also an inventory, handwritten, Meal 1, Meal 62, each with a checkbox, checked, eaten, unchecked, refused. At the bottom, in red, she's beginning to listen. Still won't call me daddy, but she will. Fingerprint analysis revealed 3 sets. Daniel Langdon's near the crawl space. Another unidentified on the sliding panel. The third, saying as behind the mirror. The same hands moved through both places. Rivera looked around. It's not a house. It's a machine, built not to hide, but to control. Back at the sheriff's office, he reread the 1997 interview with Delilah Boone. She mentioned a food tray in the fridge, plastic wrapped. At the time, they assumed takeout, but upon reanalysis, the lab found a fiber in the napkin, bright pink, synthetic, same as the mattress in the princess room. The tray had been moved, a mistake, or a message. Rivera interviewed Melanie Sykes, assistant to Gregory K. That's Greg, she said. Hired me, paid in cash, had me drop off pink tiles once, to the Driftwood Lane rental. Said he was doing a whimsy theme. You ever go inside? No, he always met me out front. That night, cadaver dogs searched the crawl space. Near a support beam, one signaled. Excavation began. By morning, they uncovered a child-sized cot wrapped in plastic. Inside, bones. Disarticulated, likely female, possibly 5 or 6. Too small for Teresa, the anthropologist said. Rivera stared at the grave. Then we have another victim. Back at the motel, Julia lay awake. Eaten, refused, eaten, refused. It wasn't just monitoring, it was grooming, submission by deprivation. And maybe now, someone else was being groomed too. She turned toward the window. From here, the house was just a silhouette. But she swore she saw movement in the upper vent. May 9, 2024, Grandie, North Carolina. The Blue Bucket Motel was gone, replaced by a vape shop and Dollar General, but the ground remembered. Rivera stood in the parking lot with a historian. She held a 1996 blueprint. Unit 9, 2 vents, 1 mirror closet, retrofit, 1997. Cal had stayed there 3 times, once with a child, name on the log K. Lane. Age 6, no last name, no guardian. Description, BL, elemental, physical. Rivera asked for photos. She produced one, cracked wallpaper, analog TV, and in the corner, above the vent, a black dot. A hidden lens. That's not wired to the front desk, she said. Spy cam, off plan. Room 9 wasn't just a room. It was a trial run, a rehearsal. The house Julia bought? The final act. Later, Rivera met Hank Dillard, a former maintenance worker. You worked room 9? Sometimes. You remember, Cal? Too polite, exact change, always smiling. Rivera slid a Polaroid across the table. Teresa, half asleep, the mirror behind her. Hank studied it, then nodded. At the beach house, as the motel. Look at the baseboard, and that mirror, I installed it. Everything was becoming clear. This wasn't just a crime scene. It was a legacy, and they were only beginning to understand what had been built into the bones of that house. Rivera felt his pulse quicken. You installed that mirror? Yep. Kel had it delivered special. Told me to mount it tight, no light gaps. Said it was for his guest project. Rivera leaned forward. Do you know who the girl was? Hank's face fell. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a stained, folded envelope. Ain't proud of this, he said, but I took something before the place was torn down. Found it under the sink. Inside was a photo, black and white. A girl, maybe 6 or 7, sat cross-legged on the motel bed, her face turned mid-motor, blurred. She held a faceless cloth doll and stared toward the mirror. On the back, in sharp ink, "We'll try again if this one fails." Rivera stared. Teresa hadn't been the first. She'd been a replacement. Back at the crime lab, the forensic team was digitizing Kel's cache of VHS tapes. Over 60 were found, most unlabeled, some damaged, others preserved like trophies. Tags marked with dates and cryptic symbols. Rivera joined the lead technician in the secure viewing room. The first tape flickered to life with static. Then, a handheld shot. A woman in her early 30s, chained to a metal cot in the princess room. Her hair damp. Her eyes distant. A voice male whispered commands. Now smile. Say hello to the camera. Say you're happy. Say this is your new home. She didn't respond. You can make this harder than it has to be. Rivera stopped the tape. What date was this? The tech checked. August 19th, 1997. 2 days after Teresa was reported missing. Later, Julia stood beside Rivera in what remained of her bathroom. No walls, no mirror. Just exposed beams in the hollow space that once concealed a nightmare. Polished black, painted white, repeated, exposed. This was never a house, she said. It was a studio. Rivera nodded. Built for performance. Engineered for silence. Every vent an eye. Every mirror a lens. Julia's voice dropped, and no one knew. No one looked, he corrected. They assumed the Langdons left, assumed Teresa ran. But she didn't. He turned to the room, eyes scanning the beams. She was right here, waiting. May 10th, 2024. The blueprint changed everything. Discovered inside a waterproof sleeve behind the utility closet. It wasn't just architectural, it was intentional. Rivera spread it across the table, gloved hands holding the curled edges. Black lines sketched the layout. Red notations added after. PR, princess room, mirror view, feeding entry. One crude drawing showed a figure curled inside a box. Below it, acceptance. A structural engineer confirmed their worst suspicions. These weren't renovations. They were original designs. I've never seen anything like this outside a military containment facility, he said. This isn't concealment, it's control. Beneath the guest bedroom floorboards, the forensic team uncovered a rusted lockbox. Inside, 3 cassette tapes, a faded children's book, Goodnight Princess, a crayon drawing of a stick-figure girl in a box labeled Me, and a pink ribbon knotted with blood. The tapes were prioritized. The first, footage of the house under construction. Kel, clipboard in hand, giving orders. The second, a child, 5 or 6, on the mattress in the hidden room. Same pink walls, same mirror. Say your name, the voice demanded. The girl shook her head. Say it. Say you belong here. The child looked into the mirror. I'm Katie. Rivera froze. Howdy. The name on the motel photo. DNA pulled from the ribbon confirmed it. Caitlin Lane, age 6, missing from a Virginia grocery store in 1996. Case cold in 2 weeks. She was the first. Teresa was the second. And the house had 2 graves. Maybe more. That afternoon, Julia walked through the hollow frame of the house. Every floorboard groaned like a breath. In the guest bathroom, they found another secret, a chute hidden behind the medicine cabinet. It led to a box-like void, trash, old wrappers, a broken fork, and a Polaroid. Teresa, hand on the mirror, eyes wide. On the back, in red, she still resists, might need replacement. Rivera reviewed the timeline. Katie Lane, taken 1996. Teresa Langdon, vanished 1997. House sold in 1999, dormant until 2023. But something didn't sit right. They had never found Teresa. Only Katie. Then where is she? Julia asked. They searched again, this time deeper. Behind a sealed drain pipe beneath the master bath, they found a PVC tube buried in the concrete. Inside, a VHS tape labeled DL Final. May 11th, 2024. The video played in silence. Forensics, Julia, Rivera, all watched. A cracked mirror, fogged. Behind it, a man, Gregory K. You wanted answers, he said, so here they are. He looked haggard, thinner, sick. People think they walk through life unseen, but they see you, they just don't know it. The camera shifted. Teresa, curled on the mattress, breathing shallow, barely conscious. She stopped asking about Daniel, about the beach. She listens now. Kel walked toward the lens. This is my last entry. The screen cut to static, then returned. Kel, in the crawl space. I sealed her in, fed her, taught her. She stopped screaming. That's enough, Nana. Another cut. Kel in front of the mirror, dragging a knife across his palm. If no one sees you, maybe you're already gone. Final scene. Teresa, dazed. His voice. What are you now? A pause. Not big. What do you want? A whisper. The screen went dark. Julia turned away, jaw clenched. She lived longer than anyone thought. Rivera nodded. Weeks, maybe months. Or someone helped her. Daniel. Rivera shook his head. No second body. No signs, but we found something. In the princess room wall, sealed behind insulation, a jar. Inside, a note. If anyone finds this, my name is Teresa Langdon. I'm 33. I came with my husband Daniel. He is gone. I don't know if I'm alive, but I am still in here. Please, don't leave me behind. She wrote this after they declared her missing, Julia whispered. Rivera nodded. And there's no date. It could have been days or years. DNA confirmed it was Teresa. Kel's fingertips were on the edge. He had read it and sealed it away. The investigation expanded. Interpol notified. Bolo issued across 6 states. Rivera addressed the media. The house was designed for containment. Teresa Langdon's fate is unknown. The case is no longer cold. That night, Julia stood at the dunes, staring at the dark silhouette of the house. Somewhere in there, Teresa had either died or escaped. Where did you go? She whispered. And the wind answered. May 13th, 2024. Chesapeake, Virginia. The girl in the footage wasn't Teresa. Oops, Katie. Grainy, small, stiff. But the voice behind the camera wasn't Kel. It was Daniel. Say the rhyme again. If I'm good, I'll see the light. If I'm bad, it's endless night. Julia froze. That's not just Daniel watching, he's participating. Rivera crossed his arms. Then Teresa didn't just vanish, she was betrayed. They re-examined the tapes. Audio analysis revealed overlapping footsteps, a second voice, feeding routines. DNA swabs, 2 male contributors. One Kel, the other a partial match to Daniel Langdon's father. They exhumed the backyard, under a shed, beneath cement. A rusted toolbox, a VHS labeled Training DL. A woman's earring. a confession, a cough. I told him no at first, but she wouldn't listen. He said we were making a home. She stopped talking. Then she stopped. Signed, Daniel Langdon. Julia stared at the house. Smaller now. Less a monster, more a mausoleum. Kell built the rooms. Langdon built the lie. Together they built the story. Rivera sat beside her. We'll find him. Which one? At 4:11 p.m., a tip. A man had died. No ID, no relatives. In his closet, a faceless doll. In his jacket, a note. I watched her sleep for years, but I never stopped hearing her scream. They buried Katie Lane near her old school. Julia read the eulogy. Still no Teresa. But Julia believed. She hadn't died. She had escaped. Because someone helped her. Someone who left behind a final message. Scratched into a mirror frame. She's not gone, she got out, and she's not coming back. May 14th, 2024, Kill Devil Hills. They found a door, not the one guests used. The other one, behind the water heater, sealed in darkness. Rivera and Julia pried it open. A tunnel. At the end, a trap door, nailed shut from inside. Beside it, shoes, small, pink. On the wall, scratch marks, dozens. All childhood. One word, out. The room beyond was tiny. A mattress, a rope, a plastic mirror. Pages from a diary. He thinks I don't remember my name, but I do. Teresa. I think I've been here 200 days, maybe more. He coughs. He forgets things. One day I'll leave, and I won't come back. Julia looked up. She got out. Rivera nodded, and never looked back. There was no Teresa Langdon in any system. She had erased herself. But in 2003, a shelter nurse filed a report. A woman, mid-30s, no ID. Name, Tess Rainier. In the margins, patient repeats rhyme under breath. Julia held the note. Who lived? Rivera stood in the doorway. If she's out there, she doesn't want to be found. Maybe not, Julia said, but maybe someone will hear her. Someone else still stuck. They'll hear her story, and they'll leave too. The case was closed. The house was burned. Julia stood at the edge of the fire. She whispered only 2 words. You're free. June 4th, 2024, unknown. The woman behind the counter asked her name. She hesitated. Then, Tess Rainier. Room 6, small, quiet safe. She unpacked her bag, pulled out a notebook, and wrote. They think I'm dead. They named me, but they didn't call it what it was. Home, not because I wanted it, but because it taught me what I had to become. She didn't use her real name anymore. She left it behind, like she left him. Dead in memory, in silence. She sees his face sometimes, but she's stronger now. She travels, leaves drawings, notes, messages. A girl, a pink room, a mirror, sometimes beneath it, you are not alone. In a library, a girl finds one. She recognizes the room. She hides the drawing, but one day she speaks, and everything begins again. Tess folds her journal entry, slides it under the mattress. Maybe someone will find it, maybe not. It doesn't matter, because now she always leaves the door open.